Before we start, I want to say that only 1% of you are subscribed. Please subscribe because when we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will post a special video for you. The night was unusually quiet in the Siberian wilderness. The only sound was the howling of the wind as it whipped across the frozen landscape, sculpting the snow into high drifts. Above, the stars shone with an unobstructed brilliance against the dark canvas of the sky. In the midst of this icy expanse, a lone figure lay beside the twisted wreckage of what appeared to be a small spacecraft. The hull was scorched and partially buried in snow, steam rising from its still warm engines. Marisol, an alien from the tropical planet of Xylenia, stirred weakly. Her skin, a luminous shade of blue, contrasted sharply with the stark white of the snow. Confusion and fear flickered across her face as she attempted to rise, her limbs shaking from the cold. Suddenly, a light pierced the darkness, approaching from a distance. It was Eric, a geologist stationed at a nearby research camp. He was returning from a late-night survey when the bright flash of the crash caught his attention. "Hello," Eric called out as he neared the crash site, his flashlight sweeping over the snow until it landed on Marisol. He halted, taken aback by the sight of the alien. Her features were distinctly non-human. Large opalescent eyes and slender limbs, but unmistakably alive and in distress. "Do not be afraid," Eric said, lowering his flashlight slightly and offering his hand. "I'm here to help you." Marisol looked up at him, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and relief. She reached out, her hand trembling as she took his. "Cold. I am very cold," she managed to say in broken English, her voice a soft, melodic chime. Eric nodded, quickly removing his thick outer jacket and wrapping it around her shoulders. "Let's get you somewhere warm. Can you walk?" With his support, Marisol got to her feet, leaning heavily against him. Together, they trudged through the snow towards Eric's camp, which was illuminated by a few small lights in the distance. As they walked, Eric tried to make her feel at ease. "I'm Eric," he introduced himself. "What's your name?" "Marisol," she replied, her voice gaining a bit of strength. "From Xylenia." "Thank you, Eric." "It's not far now," Eric reassured her as they made their way slowly. "What brought you to Earth, Marisol?" "Mission study." Marisol's voice faded as she struggled to keep up with Eric's pace. "You can tell me all about it once we get you warmed up," Eric said, noticing her difficulty. He adjusted his hold, making it easier for her to lean on him. Finally, they reached the camp. It was a modest setup. A couple of temporary structures made to withstand the harsh climate. Eric led Marisol into the main cabin, where a small heater immediately began to work its magic. Sitting her down on a chair, Eric fetched a hot drink, handing it to her with a gentle smile. "Here, this should help." Marisol accepted the drink, her hands wrapped around the mug for warmth. "Eric, why help me?" she asked, genuinely curious. Eric sat across from her, his expression thoughtful. "Because it's the right thing to do. You needed help. I can't just leave you out there." Marisol nodded, her eyes studying Eric's face as she sipped the warm liquid. "On Xylenia, we help too. It is our way." "Well, it's my way too," Eric smiled. "Tomorrow, we'll figure out your ship and what you need to get back home, all right?" Marisol smiled for the first time, her fears beginning to ebb. "All right, Eric." As they sat in the warmth of the cabin, the barriers between two vastly different beings began to melt away, replaced by the budding foundation of trust and the promise of new friendship. Morning light filtered softly through the frosted windows of the cabin, casting a warm glow across the room. Marisol sat wrapped in a blanket near the heater, her blue skin less pallid than the night before. Eric bustled around the kitchen area, preparing breakfast. The aroma of coffee filled the small space, blending with the crisp, clean scent of snow that snuck in every time the door opened. "So, Marisol, how are you feeling this morning?" Eric asked, setting a plate of food in front of her, a simple offering of toast and scrambled eggs. "Better warmer," she replied, examining the food with curiosity before trying a tentative bite. "This is good. Thank you." Eric grinned, pleased. "It's just eggs and toast, nothing special. But I'm glad you like it. We'll need to check out your ship today. See if we can communicate with your people. Let them know you're okay." Marisol nodded, her expression serious. "Yes, my crew. They will be worried." As they ate, the door to the cabin burst open, letting in a gust of cold air. Another man stepped in, taller and broader than Eric, with a rugged beard and an easy smile. "Morning, Eric. I saw the lights on." "Oh." He stopped mid-sentence, spotting Marisol. "Ah, Alex. Perfect timing," Eric said, not at all perturbed by the interruption. "This is Marisol. Marisol, this is Alex, another geologist working here with me." "Pleased to meet you, Marisol," Alex said, extending a hand politely. Marisol took it, her grip cautious. "Alex is going to help us with your ship," Eric explained. "He's got more experience with engineering than I do." "Happy to help," Alex affirmed. "Where's this ship of yours?" Marisol finished her meal and stood, still wrapped in the blanket. "Not far. I can show you." Together, the trio made their way outside, the cold biting after the warmth of the cabin. They trudged through the snow, their breaths visible in the air. Marisol led them to the crash site, a bleak scar on the white landscape. Alex whistled lowly as he surveyed the damaged spacecraft. "This is beyond anything I've seen. You built this, Marisol?" "My people did," she corrected, her tone proud. "I just pilot it. Well, let's see what we can do about getting you back in the pilot seat, shall we?" Alex clapped his hands together, energized by the challenge. They spent hours at the site, Alex and Eric poring over the alien technology with Marisol's guidance. The men listened intently as Marisol explained the functions of various controls and components, her knowledge detailed and precise. "This is your communication device?" Eric asked, pointing to a panel with glowing symbols. "Yes, but it's damaged," Marisol replied, frowning. "It needs repair to send a signal to Xylenia." "I think we can rig up something with our equipment back at the camp," Alex suggested. "Patch into the system and bypass the damaged parts." Marisol looked between the two men, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Can we really do that?" "Let's give it a shot," Eric said with a confident nod. "We won't know until we try." Back at the camp, Alex pulled out spare parts and tools, spreading them on a makeshift workbench. Eric and Marisol leaned in close, watching as Alex explained his plan. "We'll use this transmitter to mimic your signal output," Alex said, connecting wires. "And this should help us bridge the gap where your device is failing." The work was meticulous and slow, with frequent consultations of Marisol's explanations. Hours passed, the cabin filled with the sounds of clanking tools and occasional bursts of alien language from Marisol as she searched for the right words to explain. Finally, Alex stepped back, wiping his brow. "Okay, let's power it up and see if we've got a working connection." Eric flicked the switch they'd rigged up. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a low hum filled the room, and the makeshift device lit up, pulsing with life. Marisol gasped, her face lighting up with joy. "It's working. That's the signal tone of Xylenia." Eric and Alex exchanged a look of triumph, their smiles wide. "Let's get your message out, Marisol," Eric said, turning to her. "Tell your people you're safe." As Marisol began to speak into the device, her voice steady and clear, Eric and Alex stood back, their part in this strange, wonderful encounter nearly complete. They had bridged worlds far beyond what they had ever imagined. As the alien signal transmitted into the void of space, Marisol, Eric, and Alex waited in tense silence. The cabin felt warmer, not just from the heat of the fire, but from the shared effort and anticipation that filled the air. Finally, the device crackled to life, and a series of harmonious tones echoed back. Marisol's eyes widened, a mixture of relief and happiness flooding her features. They received it. "My people know I'm safe. They're sending help, but it will take time." "That's great news, Marisol," Eric exclaimed, clapping his hands in delight. Looks like we're roommates for a bit longer then. Alex chuckled, packing away his tools. I guess that makes us your official Earth liaisons. Anything you need, just let us know. The atmosphere lightened, and over the next few days, Marisol became more acquainted with her human companions and their work. Eric and Alex involved her in their daily routines, showing her how they collected and analyzed geological samples. One brisk morning, as they prepared to head out to a nearby glacier, Eric briefed Marisol on their plans. We're going to collect some ice cores today. It helps us understand past climates. Marisol, dressed in a borrowed coat and gloves, nodded eagerly. I have studied similar sciences. May I help? Of course, Alex said, handing her a set of tools. The more hands, the better. Out on the glacier, Marisol proved to be a quick learner. Her alien perspective brought fresh insights into their methods, and she suggested an alternative way to analyze the ice that intrigued both Eric and Alex. Your technique could provide a clearer timeline of deposition layers, Eric noted, examining a freshly extracted core. It's brilliant. Marisol smiled, pleased to contribute. It's similar to how we analyze sediment layers on Xylenia. As they worked, the men asked about her planet, curious about her life and culture. Marisol described Xylenia's vast oceans and bright skies, which sounded surreal to her earthbound companions. Sounds like a paradise, Alex mused, his voice tinged with a hint of envy. It is beautiful, Marisol agreed. But so is your planet in a different way. The snow, the sky, it's very peaceful here. Their conversation continued as they packed up their equipment. Eric, intrigued by Marisol's descriptions, asked, "Do you miss it?" "You're home." "Yes," she admitted, her voice softening. "But I am also excited to be here, learning from you." Back at the camp, they reviewed the data they collected, with Marisol eagerly participating in the analysis. Her understanding of geological processes impressed Eric and Alex, further bridging the gap between their worlds. That evening, as they shared a meal, Eric brought out a map of Earth. "Since you're stuck here for a while, we should show you around, at least on paper." Marisol leaned over the map, fascinated by the diversity of landscapes and climates marked out before her. "I would like to see more of your world," she said, her finger tracing the continents. "We'll make sure you do," Eric promised. "Think of it as an extended field trip." Alex raised his glass, a playful glint in his eyes. "To Marisol, our favorite alien geologist. To new friends and new discoveries," Eric added, the glasses clinking together in the cozy warmth of the cabin. Marisol echoed the sentiment, her voice strong and clear. "To Earth, my unexpected haven." As they laughed and planned future excursions, the bonds of friendship deepened, their camaraderie a testament to the uniting power of shared curiosity and adventure. A week had passed since Marisol's signal reached her people, and life at the camp had settled into a comfortable routine. The cold Siberian winter continued its relentless siege outside, but inside the cozy confines of the cabin, warmth permeated the air, fueled by friendship and mutual respect. One evening, Eric decided to introduce Marisol to another earthly pleasure, cinema. He set up a small projector they used for analyzing data to play a movie. "You'll like this one," he assured her as he fumbled with the controls. "It's a classic." Alex, who had just returned from a supply run, entered the cabin with a curious look. "Movie night, eh? What's on the menu?" "Casablanca. I think the themes of love and sacrifice are something universal," Eric replied, throwing a look Marisol's way. Marisol settled into a chair, pulling the blanket around her shoulders. "I am eager to learn more about human culture through your stories." As the movie played, Marisol was captivated. She asked questions about the historical context and the characters, intrigued by the complexities of human emotions and the decisions they made. Eric and Alex took turns explaining nuances, enjoying her fresh perspective on a film they'd seen many times before. "Humans often face such difficult choices," Marisol observed as the credits rolled. "Your emotions are very powerful. Sometimes too powerful, Alex agreed with a chuckle. But that's what makes life interesting. Exactly, Eric nodded, switching off the projector. Stories help us deal with those emotions. Give us a chance to see our own lives reflected back at us. Their discussion veered into a deeper dialogue about Xylenian culture. Marisol shared that her people also use storytelling, but more through music and dance than visual media. This sparked an idea in Eric's mind. Why don't you show us some of your culture's dances? Eric suggested. It'd be great to learn about Xylenian art. Marisol hesitated, a bit shy at first, but then agreed. I would need music that suits the dance. It's quite different from yours. Alex, always ready to help, pulled out his laptop. Let's find something you can use. What does it sound like? More fluid, continuous tones. Less percussion, more melody, Marisol described as best as she could. After a few attempts, they found a piece of music that seemed to match her description. Marisol stood up, took a deep breath, and began to dance. Her movements were graceful, almost flowing like water, her body swaying and arms undulating in rhythm to the alien melody. Eric and Alex watched in awe. That was beautiful, Eric said once she finished, the admiration clear in his voice. Thank you for sharing that with us, Alex added, genuinely impressed. Feeling encouraged, Marisol taught them a few basic steps. Laughter filled the cabin as Eric and Alex tried to mimic her fluid movements, stumbling over their feet more often than not. As the night wore on, they continued to share stories and music from their respective cultures. Marisol felt a deep sense of gratitude for these human friends who had embraced her so fully and shown such interest in her world. Before they turned in for the night, Eric pulled out a map of Earth. Tomorrow, if the weather's good, let's take you to see some of the nearby landmarks. Real Earth geography up close. Marisol, looking at the map, felt a surge of adventure. I would like that very much. Your planet is very beautiful, Eric. It is, Eric agreed. And it's even better when you're sharing it with friends. They settled down for the night, the cabin filled with the soft glow of the fire. Outside, the snow continued to fall silently, a contrast to the warmth inside. Here, far from her home planet, Marisol found a new place to belong, her heart warmed by the kindness and curiosity of her new human friends. The next morning dawned clear and bright, with the sun casting a sparkling sheen over the vast expanse of snow. After breakfast, Eric, Alex, and Marisol geared up for a day outside. They planned to show Marisol some of the natural landmarks that made this part of Siberia unique. Got everything? Warm clothes, check. Snow boots, check. Good spirits, check. Alex joked as they loaded up their snowmobiles. Marisol, wrapped in a thermal suit, nodded eagerly. I am ready. It is beautiful today. The trio set off, the engines of their snowmobiles growling softly against the crunch of snow beneath. Their first stop was a frozen lake that, when the conditions were right, mirrored the skies so perfectly that it was hard to tell where the earth ended and the heavens began. As they approached the lake, Eric cut the engine. We walk from here. The ice is thick, but it's safer this way. Marisol dismounted, her eyes wide as she took in the shimmering surface of the lake. It looks like glass, she marveled. It's one of my favorite spots, Eric confessed as they started walking, especially on days like this, when everything is so still. They reached the middle of the lake, and Alex encouraged Marisol to step forward alone. Take it in, Marisol. Not many people get to see this. Standing at the center, Marisol felt a moment of profound peace. The vast, open sky above and the solid ice below framed her in a world of pristine white and deep blue. It's incredible, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, afraid to break the serene quiet. Eric and Alex joined her, sharing a smile. Glad you like it, Alex said. There's more to see, though. Their next destination was a series of ice caves a few miles away. As they rode, Marisol felt the cold air sting her cheeks, exhilarated by the speed and the stark beauty surrounding her. When they arrived at the caves, the sun was at just the right angle, casting colorful refractions through the ice. The caves glowed with natural light, creating a kaleidoscope of colors. "This is breathtaking," Marisol exclaimed as they entered the largest cave. The walls sparkled with embedded ice crystals that glinted like diamonds. "We call this the Crystal Cave," Eric explained, leading her deeper into the cave. "Watch your step. It can be slippery." Inside, they explored the winding passages, their voices echoing softly. Marisol was fascinated by the natural architecture, her scientist mind curious about every formation. "These formations are thousands of years old," Alex noted, pointing to the layered ice. "Each layer tells a story of the past climate, just like the ice cores we showed you." Marisol touched the ice gently, reverent. "It's like a history book, then." "Exactly," Eric agreed. They spent hours at the caves, and as the light began to fade, they made their way back to the snowmobiles. The ride back was quieter, each lost in thought after the day's discoveries. Back at the cabin, they gathered around the fireplace, hot drinks in hand. Marisol looked between her two friends, her expression thoughtful. "Today was a day of learning and beauty," she began, her voice soft but clear. "I've seen places on Earth now that rival the wonders of Xylenia." Eric smiled, his eyes warm. "And you've barely scratched the surface. Earth has a lot to offer." Alex raised his mug. "To exploring more, both our planet and our friendships." Marisol raised hers in return, the firelight reflecting in her grateful eyes. "To exploration and friendship." As the fire crackled, the warmth of the cabin enveloped them, a stark contrast to the cold outside. They had ventured into the chill of the Siberian wilderness, but it was the warmth of their growing friendship that they carried back with them. After their excursion to the ice caves, Marisol, Eric, and Alex spent many evenings sharing tales of their homelands. One chilly evening, as they were finishing dinner, Marisol surprised them. "I've learned much about Earth's culture, but I haven't shared enough of Xylenia with you," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "Would you like to try some Xylenian cuisine? I can cook something simple with what we have here." Eric and Alex exchanged intrigued glances. "I'd love to see what you can whip up," Eric replied enthusiastically. "Count me in," Alex chimed in. "I'm always ready to try new foods." With a nod, Marisol began pulling various supplies from the pantry, explaining each one as she went. "We use a lot of roots and tubers on Xylenia, similar to your potatoes, and lots of fresh greens. It's about balancing the flavors." As Marisol cooked, Eric and Alex watched, captivated by her adept movements and the exotic aromas filling the cabin. They set the table, the air thick with anticipation. Finally, Marisol presented her dish. "It's called Zalrut stew. It's very hearty." The stew was unlike anything Eric and Alex had ever tasted, rich and earthy with a tang that tickled the palate. "This is amazing, Marisol," Alex said after a hearty mouthful, his enthusiasm genuine. "Really different, but really good," Eric agreed, his spoon already scooping up the next bite. The warmth of the meal spread through them, and the cabin felt cozier than ever. After clearing the dishes, Eric suggested they relax by the fire with some music. "I'll get the music," Alex offered, picking up his guitar. "How about some live Earth tunes tonight?" As Alex strummed a gentle melody, Marisol and Eric found themselves alone by the fire. A comfortable silence settled between them, filled only by the soft notes floating through the air. Eric glanced over at Marisol, noticing the way the firelight played across her features. "You know, I've been thinking," he began, his voice low. "We've all been stuck in this routine of work and sharing about our planets, but we haven't really talked about us." Marisol turned to face him, her expression curious. "Us. Yeah, how all this feels. Being stuck here together, learning from each other. I mean, I've learned a lot from you, Marisol. Not just about Xylenia, but about seeing things in a new way." Marisol's eyes softened, her voice reflective. "I feel the same, Eric. I was afraid when I first crashed, but now I feel fortunate. It's been enlightening, being with you and Alex." Eric moved a little closer, driven by a spontaneous impulse. "I'm glad you're here, Marisol. Really glad." Their eyes locked, and something unspoken yet palpable passed between them. Marisol leaned in slightly, and Eric, interpreting her silent cue, met her halfway. Their first kiss was tentative, a gentle testing of unknown waters. As they pulled apart, both felt the warmth not just from the fire, but from something new and exciting that had sparked between them. "I didn't expect this," Marisol whispered, a hint of wonder in her voice. "Neither did I," Eric replied, his hand reaching out to touch hers. "But I'm not complaining." Alex, finishing his song, looked over and caught their smile. "Hey, I hope my music is inspiring something beautiful over there," he said with a wink, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "It is, Alex," Marisol said, her smile radiant. "It really is." The rest of the evening passed in a blend of laughter, music, and shared glances. Something had changed in the cabin that night, a new chapter unfolding in their unexpected journey together. The warmth of the previous evening's confession lingered into the morning. Eric and Marisol shared knowing glances over breakfast, a silent communication that spoke volumes. Alex noticed a shift in the air, but chose to respect their privacy, keeping the conversation light and jovial. "All right, team," Alex clapped his hands after they finished eating. "We've got a clear day, and I think it's perfect for some cross-country skiing. What do you say?" Marisol nodded enthusiastically. "I'd love to learn. It seems like a fun way to explore more of this beautiful place." Eric smiled at her eagerness. "It's a date then. Alex, you in?" "Wouldn't miss it," Alex replied, already gathering the gear. They spent the morning fitting Marisol with skis and teaching her the basics on a flat stretch of snow near the cabin. She picked up the technique quickly, laughing joyfully whenever she faltered. Her laughter was infectious, and soon all three were caught up in the fun of the moment. As they ventured further from the cabin, the landscape opened up into a wide valley framed by distant mountains. The snow-covered ground sparkled under the midday sun, a sea of diamonds stretching out before them. "It's beautiful out here," Marisol breathed out, standing still to take it all in. "Yeah, Siberia has its moments," Eric agreed, skiing up beside her. Alex pushed ahead, turning back to shout, "I'll scout a good spot for lunch," leaving Eric and Marisol alone. The solitude felt natural, and as they skied side by side, their earlier intimacy found new space to grow. "Marisol, about last night," Eric started, his voice serious. "I meant what I said. I'm glad you're here." Marisol stopped, planting her ski poles in the snow. "Eric, She paused, searching for the right words. "I feel a connection with you. It's strange and new, and I never expected to feel this way on Earth." Eric reached out, taking her hand in his, their ski gloves rustling softly. "Neither did I, but I'm not about to question it. Whatever this is, I want to explore it with you." Their eyes locked, and this time there was no hesitation. Eric leaned in, kissing her deeply. Marisol responded with equal passion, her heart racing as the cold around them seemed to melt away. They were still wrapped up in each other when Alex's distant call brought them back to reality. "Hey, lovebirds, found the perfect spot." Flushing, they skied over to where Alex had stopped. He winked at them as they approached, setting down a picnic blanket and unpacking sandwiches. "I figured you two might need some energy after all that exercise." Lunch was a lively affair, with Alex regaling them with exaggerated tales of past expeditions. But even his stories couldn't overshadow the palpable connection between Eric and Marisol. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, they decided to head back. The return trip was quieter, each lost in thought. When they reached the cabin, Eric pulled Marisol aside. "Tonight," he whispered, his breath visible in the cold air, "let's spend some time alone, just you and me." Marisol nodded, her face alight with anticipation. "I'd like that." After dinner, with Alex retiring early with a book, Eric and Marisol sat by the fire. The flames crackled, casting a warm glow over their faces. They talked softly about hopes, dreams, and the uncertain future. As the night deepened, So did their connection. Wrapped in a blanket before the dying embers of the fire, they shared tender touches and kisses, exploring each other with a gentle curiosity that soon turned to more. The heat of their passion contrasted starkly with the icy world outside. In Eric's arms, Marisol trembled not from cold, but from the warmth and intensity of their embrace. It was a night of discovery, of shared warmth, and of unspoken promises made under the silent watch of the Siberian stars. As the first light of dawn crept over the horizon, it found Eric and Marisol still awake, nestled together under a blanket beside the now dim embers of the fire. They spoke in hushed tones, reluctant to break the intimate cocoon they had woven around themselves during the night. "Last night was incredible," Eric murmured, brushing a strand of hair from Marisol's face. Marisol smiled, her eyes reflecting the nascent light. "Yes, it was. I never imagined feeling this connected to someone. Not on Earth, and certainly not this quickly." As they savored the quiet moment, Alex emerged from his room, stretching and yawning. "Good morning, you two. Looks like I missed quite the night," he said with a wink, setting about making coffee. Eric sat up, wrapping the blanket tighter around him. "Morning, Alex. Sleep well, like a log. But I see the fire kept someone else warm," Alex quipped, pouring water into the pot. "How about we plan something special today? I feel like celebrating." "Celebrating?" Marisol inquired, her curiosity piqued. "Yeah, the new bond you two have, the adventure we've all shared. Plus, the forecast says it's the last clear day before a big storm rolls in. Let's make the most of it," Alex suggested, handing them cups of steaming coffee. Eric exchanged a look with Marisol, who nodded in agreement. "Sounds perfect. What do you have in mind?" Alex's face lit up with excitement. "How about a snowshoe hike up to the ridge? The view from there is spectacular, and I think it'd be a great backdrop for some memorable photos." The plan decided, they quickly finished their morning routines and prepared for the hike. The air was crisp, and the snow crunched under their feet as they made their way through the serene landscape. Eric and Marisol, hand in hand, followed Alex's lead. Reaching the ridge, they were greeted by a breathtaking panorama of snow-covered peaks under the brilliant blue sky. Alex, ever the enthusiast, set up his camera and started directing them for photos. "Come on, get closer. Let's see those happy faces," Alex encouraged, snapping away as Eric and Marisol posed against the stunning vista. After the impromptu photo session, they sat on a large outcrop of rock, sharing sandwiches and hot tea from a thermos. Marisol looked out over the landscape, then turned to Eric with a serious expression. "Eric, when my people come, I don't know what I should do. This earth, your friendship, and what I feel for you, it's more than I expected to find here," she confessed. Eric took her hand, his voice firm yet gentle. "Whatever you decide, know that these moments, what we've shared, they're real. And they'll always be a part of us, no matter where we are." Alex, overhearing the conversation, added, "Marisol, you've made a big impact on us too. Whatever you choose, it's right by us. Just know that you've got friends here, always." Marisol nodded, her eyes moist with emotion. "I never thought I'd find a home on another planet, but I think perhaps I have." The rest of the day passed in a blend of laughter and reflective silence as they made their way back to the cabin. That evening, as they prepared for the incoming storm, the mood was contemplative but hopeful. Sitting together one last time by the fire, Marisol made her decision. "I want to stay, at least for now. My heart is here with you, with this new world." Eric squeezed her hand, his smile wide. "Then let's make the most of every moment." Outside, the snow began to fall, blanketing the world in white. Inside, the warmth of their newfound love and the promise of tomorrow filled the room, sealing their fates together in this unexpected, extraordinary journey.